Why are external marital affairs so common in the corporate world? Let's be honest for a second. The corporate world looks polished on the surface. Clean suits, bright offices, smiles in meetings, and polite small talk over coffee. But beneath that glossy professionalism lies one of the most discreet, emotionally charged, and morally blurred realities of modern adult life: extramarital affairs. And if you've been in the corporate space long enough, you've seen it. The quiet chemistry between two colleagues, the work trips that turn into something else, or the after-hours messages that have nothing to do with spreadsheets. But why is it so common there? Why do so many people, often intelligent, successful, and already committed, find themselves crossing emotional or physical lines in the workplace? Let's unpack this, not to judge, but to understand. 1. Familiarity breeds connection and temptation. Here's what most people won't admit. When you spend 8 to 10 hours a day with someone, week after week, year after year, that person starts to become part of your emotional landscape. You see them more than your spouse. You share stress, celebrate wins, vent about office drama, and sometimes even confide things you can't say at home. That emotional familiarity slowly blurs the line between professional connection and personal intimacy. It doesn't happen overnight. It starts with little things: a shared laugh, a late meeting, a compliment that lingers longer than it should. And before you know it, that casual connection starts to carry emotional weight. And if either feels neglected, unseen, or emotionally disconnected at home, the workplace becomes fertile ground for temptation. In corporate culture where ambition and stress run high, emotional comfort becomes a rare currency. And the person who gives you that comfort suddenly starts feeling like an escape, a thrill, a reminder that you're still desired. 2. The boredom factor, the silent killer of long-term relationships. Let's face it, routine kills passion. Marriage, especially after years together, becomes predictable. You wake up, go to work, pay bills, discuss the kids, maybe watch a show together, and repeat. There's comfort in that, yes, but there's also numbness. And most people don't talk about this because it sounds ungrateful. You should be thankful for stability, right? But human nature craves novelty. It craves that feeling of being wanted, chased, alive again. In the corporate world, temptation doesn't show up wearing devil horns. It shows up wearing perfume, carrying a laptop, and laughing at your jokes. And when life outside the office feels repetitive, those small moments of connection at work can feel intoxicating. For men especially, the attention from a younger, attractive colleague becomes ego fuel. It reminds them of who they used to be before responsibility and fatigue took over. The thrill of being admired again, desired again. So yes, boredom breeds curiosity. And curiosity, when mixed with proximity and secrecy, is a dangerous cocktail. 3. Power, ego, and leverage. Now let's talk about something most people whisper about but rarely say out loud. Sex and power in the corporate world often dance together. In high-pressure competitive environments, people quickly learn that attraction can be currency. Some women, not all, but some, understand that their appearance, charm, and flirtation can open doors that hard work alone might not. And some men, not all, but some, use their authority, money, or influence to get access to what their personal lives no longer provide. It becomes a silent exchange: attention for advancement, affection for access. Everyone knows what's happening, but no one says it out loud. For men in leadership, the temptation is amplified. Power attracts attention, and attention feeds ego. The same man who feels invisible at home suddenly feels like a king in the office. And when validation becomes addictive, boundaries start to fade. It's not just about sex. It's about significance. Affairs in corporate spaces often aren't driven by lust, but by a hunger to feel alive, important, and seen again. 4. The illusion of secrecy. Another reason affairs thrive in the corporate world is simple. It's easy to hide them. Business trips, team dinners, late-night deadlines all make perfect excuses. There's a built-in camouflage. No one questions why you're working late with your colleague or traveling together for a client presentation. This sense of secrecy gives people a false sense of control. No one will ever find out. But here's the truth: secrecy doesn't just hide the affair, it fuels it. The danger, the thrill, the forbidden nature, it amplifies desire. It's not just about the person anymore. It's about the feeling of breaking rules and getting away with it. And once that dopamine rush hits, it becomes less about love and more about addiction, to the thrill, to the secrecy, to the escape. 5. Emotional neglect, the root behind it all. Affairs don't always start with lust. They often start with loneliness. You'd be shocked how many people are married but emotionally alone. In the corporate world, where everyone is constantly performing, meeting targets, managing impressions, chasing goals, emotional vulnerability becomes rare. So when someone finally listens, understands, and validates you, it feels magnetic. You start telling yourself, this is different. You start believing that this person gets you in a way your spouse doesn't. But what you're really addicted to is emotional attention, because when a man isn't seen at home and then suddenly someone at work starts admiring him, laughing at his jokes, appreciating his effort, it lights something up inside, and that spark often leads to choices that burn everything else down. 6. The price no one talks about. Here's the part most people don't think about when they're caught in the excitement, the aftermath. Corporate affairs often end in chaos, not just broken marriages, but destroyed reputations, career derailments, and emotional wreckage that lasts for years. What began as innocent connection becomes guilt, paranoia, and self-doubt. Because the truth is, affairs might feed your ego, but they starve your peace. They blur your integrity, split your focus, and create a life you have to manage in shadows. And no matter how thrilling it feels in the moment, secrecy always comes with a cost. 7. The deeper truth. People don't cheat for pleasure. They cheat for escape. At its core, most corporate affairs aren't about sex. They're about escape from pressure, boredom, emotional emptiness, or self-doubt. When people feel trapped in monotony or unseen in their marriages, the workplace becomes a fantasy space, a place where they can reinvent themselves. At work, you can be charming, confident, admired, everything you don't feel at home anymore. But here's the irony. That version of you, the one you become in that affair, isn't real either. It's built on illusion, secrecy, and adrenaline. And when the excitement fades, what's left is emptiness, multiplied. 8. What this means for you. If you're a man in the corporate world, ambitious, hardworking, chasing success, remember this. Your peace is more valuable than your pleasure. The thrill of validation can feel powerful in the moment, but it's fleeting. What matters most is living with integrity, clarity, and self-respect when the lights are off and no one's watching. Yes, corporate affairs are common, but common doesn't mean fulfilling. They often start with a spark and end in silence, guilt, and regret. So, instead of chasing the next thrill, build the kind of life where you don't need to escape. Find excitement in purpose, not secrets. Because real power isn't in how many people desire you. It's in how well you can discipline your desires. If you want something thrilling, build depth where you already are, because nothing, and I mean nothing, feels better than being deeply connected to someone who truly knows your soul. If this message hit home, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Give a thumbs up, leave a comment, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.